Hey guys, welcome back to the workbench. Today I'll be showing you all how I've added graffiti decals, renumbered, and weathered this ScaleTrains 82-foot reefer. This is the latest run from ScaleTrains, and this unit is sound equipped. So let's get started. Let's go over what I'll be using today. First off is Microsole, a product sold by Microscale, which helps attach decals to the model. I also have my X-Acto knife with a fresh blade to help cut out the decals. I also have a variety of modeling tweezers to help me move the decals around and use them as I need to be. I'm also using distilled water at room temperature to help get the decals off of the decal paper. And for the decals, I am using this sheet from Fusion Scale Graphics. I'm ready to start the process by cutting out the graffiti decals that I would like to use for this model. It is important to cut them as close to the edge as possible to give you the cleanest look that you can achieve. If you see cuts or bruises on my hand, please note that I am okay. I am simply trying to raise my 18-week-old puppy, who sometimes identifies as a shark. This sheet of graffiti decals is from Fusion Scale Graphics. However, other companies such as Microscale and Circus City Decals offer very similar items. I am doing my best and taking my time to cut the decal out as close as possible to the edge, which will give me the best look on the model once it is applied. Having a sharp blade on my X-Acto knife makes this process a whole lot easier. Now let's prepare the model for the graffiti decals. I start with a base layer of Microsole applied with a paintbrush to give us a base layer to help the decal stick once it is applied. I've let the decal sit in the distilled water for roughly 30 to 45 seconds, and now I'm ready to put it on the model. You'll know the decal is ready once it has begun to separate in the water, which is when I pull it out and begin placing it on the model. I am by no means a professional, but the way I do this is using a paintbrush and my modeling pliers and move the decal around to get it placed where I want it to. Once I have applied all of the graffiti decals, I let the model dry overnight and come back the next day ready to begin the next process. The next step I believe to be the most important, as this is what's going to give you the best look. I take the Microsole and paint it on each decal. This will give the decal the painted on look as it conforms to the model, going around different detail parts. I do this twice a day, usually morning and night, for roughly 3 days, allowing it to dry after each time. So in the end, it gets roughly 6 applications of the Microsole. Once the graffiti work is complete, I'm ready to move on to the next project of adding a patch over this graffiti to allow the road number to be seen. What I'll be using is from Smokebox Graphics, which is the modern stencils, as well as the paint out blanks, which is going to give me the prototypical look I am going for. Using the same method as before, I cover the area in the Microsole and let the paint out blank as well as the numbers sit in the distilled water and then apply them to the model. I do my best to get it straight and centered of the area I want it in. However, I am not a professional. This part can be a little frustrating as each decal will have a mind of its own and begin moving across the model. However, I do my best to get it all to match up. Once I'm satisfied with how it looks, I let it dry overnight and then begin the microsole process twice a day for 3 days. Once that is complete, I will dull coat the entire model using Tamiya TS80 Flat Clear. Now let's start with the weathering. For this model, it will be lightly weathered, but I want to make sure the details all show. For this, I'll be using an oil wash using burnt umber, and I will let the product run through all the details around the door and the hinges. I like using the Gamblin products, which include their oil paints and their mineral spirits, which is how I create my wash. The wash will dry much lighter than this, so I'm not too worried about how it will flow. If I get to an area I think is too heavy, I will simply just apply more mineral spirits to help it clean up. I ended up doing 2 washes on this model, allowing it to dry for 24 hours after each one. It's important to not overdo it all at once, but to simply apply different layers. I do the same process for the roof, again not trying to overdo it. Apologies for my hand being in the way, but I still think you'll be able to see what I'm trying to achieve here. It's okay if the wash runs down the side of the car. You can clean it up by using a damp paper towel. I like using the wash, and it's probably the easiest weathering technique out there, as it really shows the details on the models. Once the model has dried for 24 hours, I will apply another dull coat and let that dry for 24 hours as well. Once that is complete, I move on to the airbrush, where I apply different road grime across the entire model, as well as focusing on the bottom where most of the kick up and splatter would be. I then move on to painting the wheels using a furniture marker. Some people may not like this process, but it works really well for me. One thing I like to do is sand off the paint on the edge of the wheels. This will provide realism and make the model seem like it has gone through the hump yards where the retarders have grabbed the wheels to slow them down. I apply one more dull coat to the model and let it dry, and then move on to the final step, which is cleaning the wheels. For this, I simply put rubbing alcohol onto a paper towel and then run the car back and forth, making sure to get the wheels as clean as possible. To me, this is very important so that way none of the paint or other debris makes its way onto the tracks. Once that is done, I call the model complete. Overall, I think this turned out pretty good, and I am satisfied with the outcome. While I am not a professional, I do hope this video has helped in some sort of way. Let me know what you want to see next, and thanks for watching.